Feeling stuck? Searching for clarity? Welcome to Life in HD with me, Natalia, a podcast about clarity, self-discovery, and embracing the unique way your brain works. I'm a life coach who was late diagnosed with ADHD. Ever since, I've been on a mission to help others break free from unrealistic expectations and build a life that truly fits them. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, stuck, or like you just don't fit the mold, this is a space for you. Whether you're navigating ADHD, anxiety, or just trying to break free from outdated expectations, with real conversations and practical strategies, I will help you reframe your mindset and build a life that works for you. Let's redefine success, challenge the stigma, and live a life in high definition. Ready? Let's dive in.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Pat, and I get to take this amazing journey with the one and only Natalia Peña. And the reason that this is important, because she and I had many conversations, and there isn't enough time in this 30-minute show to really give you the details, but she's going to break it down. What it means. Fasten your seatbelt, everybody, because somebody threw something at me this weekend. What does it mean to be neurodivergent? Finally, right. A cool term, Natalia, right? I mean, are you getting the reaction that I get when I work now with younger people about this term, right? It's kind of like, it sounds like Marvel superhero-ish, doesn't it?
Yes. I think it was that movie franchise, the Divergent series.
Exactly.
That started with that word, and everybody was like, ooh, Divergent. And now we're saying, oh, I'm not neurodivergent. And then people are like, ooh, what kind of superpower is that?
Well, because thank you for bringing that up. Because first of all, that movie had those people feel like they were less than.
Yes.
Right? That whole movie was about keeping people trapped. And yet the reality was that all of the characters had some fraction of divergent in it, but they weren't looked at as being part of the community. So let's talk about this now, right? We're going to talk about a lot of things, and this show is for understanding. Neither one of us are medical doctors, so I just want to be clear, but we are experienced neurodivergent people. So when we talk about this, we are telling you the truth. Y'all monitoring whatever we're saying today. So let's get in here and understand, what does it mean? What's the meaning? And what is this all about with our wiring? Go for it.
Yes. So thank you so much for that introduction. Yeah, we are starting to hear more about neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and I had to go into a sort of chasing a rabbit down the hole to figure out all of this, because when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I had a lot of stereotypical ideas of what being ADHD was. And it was through being part of the community that I started to hear these terms and understanding more. And the moment I did that, I started to even see other people differently. Like you said, there are some people that are looked down or are almost segregated for the way they think or they behave. And understanding neurodiversity allowed me to see that at the end of the day, all humans want three things, which is to feel like they belong, to feel like they're worthy, and that their voice matters. And so if you just defined being normal by having those three, everybody is as a human. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of differences. And so the term was originally coined by Judy Singer in the 90s. And Judy was trying to differentiate a neurotypical brain from other kinds of brains that had different behaviors and ways of thinking. So she was just saying neuro comes from the brain, and divergent means that it's different than the typical way. And it was later on, like in the 2000s, that Kassian Asasumasu started using it to refer to people that were on the spectrum that didn't fully show the marks of being fully diagnosed in the autism spectrum disorder. And the reason why they started using these words was to sort of make it more inclusive of people that maybe couldn't get a diagnosis, but still felt that there was something that was not right or that was off. This whole sense of you're not broken, you're just different. So it's a lot about the word neurodivergent is this word to make everybody feel like if you ever feel like you don't fit the mold, there might be a reason, and you might not be the only one. And this all comes down to the way the brain is wired. And the more and more they explore and they do studies, we're starting to explore that just the wiring, the physiological wiring of the brain is different, that there's no such a thing as like a perfect brain or a normal brain. And that also is not something that just started now, but it's been reported for thousands of years.
This is so important. I want to ask you a couple questions along the way because I want to touch upon something you said. But what happens here, and let's talk about what the goal is here. You know, you've mentioned a lot of people, right? And some people are a little bit learning different or different from the auditory perspective. Mine was a visual perspective. So talk about how this thing is when everybody was put in a box, right? You're the box, you're in the box, you're boom, box. That's what caused us not to really understand the gifts, the talents, and the beautiful differences, but none of this put us as less than. And there are so many famous people, right? I mean, they talk about some of the top people that have, and now we're looking at them and say, what was going on with that Einstein guy, right?
Yes.
But let's have you talk about this.
Yeah. So the reason I say it, some people are thinking, oh, now everybody's being diagnosed with ADHD, or everybody, there must be something because now everybody feels like they're on the spectrum. And when you look at history and we start to see how people were described, we could start to easily diagnose many prominent figures. Just to go a bit far in the past, Leonardo da Vinci. They said that he didn't sleep normally, didn't eat normally. Whenever he had a stroke of genius, would become hyper-focused on what he had to study and wouldn't let it go until he figured it out completely. And he tried things with his hands, with his body. When we're listening to this and we say, oh, Leonardo da Vinci, and we say the word, oh, he was a genius. But today, if we were to put him on a category, we would be like, oh, he's clearly on the spectrum because the way he's looking at the world is not typical. Albert Einstein was another person that was very shy. He had a difficulty keeping organized things. They show pictures of his desk and it was an absolute mess. He didn't care about personal hygiene, like grooming, like taking care of his hair or shaving and things like that. There was a lot of signs of what mattered for him was what he was studying and trying to figure out. And he is believed to have a sense of like another kind of like almost reality of how he came up with all of these things. But his behavior in other senses was odd. But again, because of the amazing things that these people do, it's like almost it gets overshadowed as like, yeah, he was quirky, or he did that because that was at the time. But what we're starting to realize now is that we are all wired differently. And so there are certain things that could have been brought up by nurture, the way you were raised. If you are raised by neurodivergent people, you will have neurodivergent traits. Your environment, the culture. There are some countries that just the way they behave, the things that are okay with we're doing, like being late in a South American country, is regarded as like, oh, it's just a stereotypical trait. But if you were to be late for an appointment, you could be looked upon as like you're irresponsible, or right. So there is all of these things: environment, culture, ethnicity. There's other things like maybe there's cognitive issues. So maybe you had an accident, or where at birth there was complications.
Right.
So that will also shape and rewire the way your brain is. So I think we're very quick at saying, oh, I know what an autistic person is, or I can tell when someone is ADHD, or they have OCD, or any of the other neurodivergent divergencies. And the reality is that you don't. There is not a look, because what the differences that they are is that there are people that are probably raised in an environment where they're able to cope with certain traits, and then there's the people that don't, and then there's the people that one of the examples that comes to mind is it Stephen Hawking's?
Yes.
Had,
right.
Yeah, he had it was multiple sclerosis. I don't remember exactly what it is that he was.
Well, we all know him as being somebody really genius in a wheelchair. I mean, when people, they don't even know, half the people don't know his name, but all when they see a picture of him, they think genius before wheelchair,
Yes,
right?
That's right. And the way that his disease deteriorated him at the end, he could only communicate by blinking through this machine that, I mean, technology has come a long way. But if you think about it, if we didn't have that machine, and we have someone that, because of the disease that was debilitating his muscles, couldn't speak, couldn't communicate, we would, if he had no machine, we would be like, it's done. There's nothing else from this person, right? We would not look at him or hear him. And yet, through this machine, we realized that a person that was paralyzed had still a lot of creativity and thought process. And through a tool, he was able to communicate. So there are many people that you might see them that they have, there's people on the spectrum that have speech impediments, or that they're mute, they're selective mutism, they can't speak. And some people will be like, oh, they're slower, or
that's right. Well, that was
it's
me.
hard for them.
Yeah, I stuttered. And like, that was like, she just dumb. I'm not kidding. But right? Two things you said I want you to talk about. They're really important.
For sure.
When I think about what you said, I think about my mom, who ultimately committed suicide. Why? Because she was different and got beat up all the time for it, verbally, abusively, behaviorally. But I know my mom was like me, and absolutely, now what I know about me, we had the same thing going on. But back then, when a woman like my mom talks about a vision she's got about seeing something and owning a store, and see, they're like, give her drugs. And that's what they did. So talk about, for us, what you're doing and what you're sharing is so important. We hide. I want to get to the hiding.
Yes.
The hiding. Now, my mom didn't know she had to hide. She didn't. She was like, I'm like me. But what is this practice when you cannot reconcile the outer world? You do not love yourself anymore. So let's talk about what's going on with this now, because this is big.
Yes, it is big. So one thing I want to touch on is that when we say this spectrum, many people sort of see a linear kind of, oh, you're very autistic or a little autistic, very ADHD or a little. There's people that say, I'm a little bit OCD, as if it was a linear thing of how much in the intensity. But a spectrum is like in the light, the color spectrum, it's a wheel. right?
Yeah.
So there are people that are going to have more of certain things than others. And that's why there are many tests, and they're still trying to make tests even better. And in the past, you would hear people say, oh, they're a savant, or they have Asperger's, or they're gifted, but they have other things. And there was a time where we were saying high functioning people and low functioning people. And in the autistic community, they actually started a new term, which is high masking and low masking. So what you're talking about is masking. So what is masking? Masking is the ability of self-regulate your body to behave in a way that is expected in society. For example, right now, I am masking my sense of like feeling that I'm sitting down without moving, and I'm trying my best not to be doing this.
You and me both. That's why.
So
that's why I'm surrounded. I had to put a plant over here, because otherwise,
look,
I don't know what I'm going to be doing.
I have a squishy. And if I don't have the squishy, what is going to happen is that you're just going to see my leg do this, and it's going to look like we're in an earthquake in Canada. So masking is necessary in our world, in the sense that I can't just go around screaming whenever I feel like it. Okay, there are certain things where every single person, regardless of their neurodivergence, mask. That you mask when someone says something inappropriate and you don't want to laugh, by constraining yourself and holding on to the natural response of your body of laughing. What you're doing is you're masking. So masking in a very like general way is almost like putting off a mask that shows that you're okay, whereas deep inside there might be a whole other turmoil, right? And then unmasking would be having a time to allow yourself to not have that self-control, that inhibition. What we've come to realize, and there's lots of books about this and lots of YouTube, and I would recommend everybody go check unmasking and masking. But what they've come to realize is that there are people that their brain doesn't have what it requires to control and to mask. Okay, so there are people that you will see that will behave in a way that it is odd within the standard of society, and you will recognize it, you will see it, and those are the people that are like, oh, they need to be medicated, right? And sometimes medication does help someone have the capacity of masking, which is ultimately what you're really asking someone when you're taking a medication for ADHD, for example, or for OCD. Those medications, what they're doing, they're stimulating parts of your brain that you're not able to stimulate on your own to help you in your executive function. So, for example, I take medication for ADHD that helps me control my impulsivity, and also to diffuse sort of my mind in a way that is not going at 1,000,000 times per hour, which when I am unmedicated, I get tired much faster because my mind is working like at 6 times the speed of someone else. So the idea is that masking is not necessarily wrong, but we do need to create times where we are allowing ourselves to be unmasked. So there are people like your mother that probably masking was very difficult, controlling what she was thinking or saying. And because there was no studies back then, or there was not enough research, especially about women, because if we're being honest, anything with psychology is targeted to a specific group, which is white men. So anything that has to do with women, and then on top of that, if you add diversity and you add other ethnicities and races, it is not the same. The way you treat a white man in Europe is not going to be the same way that you treat a girl in a South American country.
That's right. And that's
So
really
just
important.
now we're starting to find out more, because we are allowing neurodivergent people to really find out what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
This is extremely powerful. Natalia, I want people to know how they work with you, how they find out about you. I mean, you're breaking ground where you live. I mean, you're in the media, the newspaper, the interview, you're breaking ground. You speak so fluently, but you also speak with solution, because what we don't have time to talk about is the roller coaster ride to finding your true self and being that person in the world, right? So how do people find out about you? What's the best way to work with you?
Yes, so they can reach me on my website at natalialifecoach.com, or they can reach me on Instagram at Natalia Life in HD. And as a coach, what I truly do with people is I help them explore what kind of brain they have, because some people feel that they're stuck and they can't move forward. And as a coach, what I help them realize is that sometimes you can't move past something is because you're trying to behave how the system works. But in order for you to be able to know what to mask, you need to know what is that you're not able to do about your life. Or sometimes people think that they have to behave in a neurotypical way, but their brain is not wired in that specific way. And now what we're finding out is, what I would like everybody to that is listening to understand, is it's not about working harder or trying harder. It's about working differently and trying something different. Maybe it is medication, maybe it is a machine, maybe it is technology, maybe it is just creating space for you to unmask and let your body move how it needs to move, or behave the way that it has to behave.
You know, this is the journey. And what you're talking about is we have to be aware of this first. There's an aspect of being in the world where you don't always get to love. It happened to me over the weekend. It really did. And I took something very personally, and then I backed off from it. But when somebody sees you, and I can be extremely focused and I'm working on projects and I'm working on, and somebody says, you're really ADHD today. And I'm like, that is not my thing. That's not one of the things that goes on for me. What you're seeing is extreme focus in my ability to multitask and do a complex website build. But they didn't mean any harm. But you see, it's all about what you're talking about. We're throwing this stuff around. And, you know, and I had a moment where I looked at them and I said, do you think somebody that's truly the way you think about them can hit a table tennis ball for an hour without missing? Do you really think that? I will leave you with that question, Natalia, right? Because I don't know. Thank you for what you're doing. Let's go full circle. Where are we now? How can we help people? What's your closing personal message today? Thank you for everything you're doing.
No, I thank you, and thank you to everybody that is listening. And I just want to say that if they ever felt like they're constantly trying to catch up, like they just can't figure out why life is so hard, just this is the podcast where we're going to talk about that. And if they want to explore in depth, they're just welcome to reach me, and I could help them and coach them. I just want them to know that they're not broken, they're not lazy, they just haven't found the right support or clarity about who they are. And so what I would say is that in the next episode, we're going to talk about that specifically. We're going to talk about how do you build a specific toolbox that work for your brain. And that's, I think, once you start recognizing that and creating the tools that you need, then you can start living your life in high definition, you know?
I know. And, you know, that's part of it too, is because we have to speak out and make a shift, because the abuse, what especially a younger person goes through, you went through it. I went through it, the whole stuttering thing. Oh my gosh, I never wanted anybody to ask me a question. But what we're talking about here today is to open a door so we can have kindness and compassion and understand each other. Because in the end, there may be differences, but there are no one out there. There's no one that's less than. And thank you for self-love. Thank you for today and reminding us of that.
You're welcome.
Again, website, please. Want to make sure people
Yes.
know how to get a hold of you.
www.natalialifecoach.com or on Instagram at Natalia Life in HD.
Natalia, thank you so much for everything. We're just warming up here because we have got to do a better job of understanding each other. I mean, imagine if you're in the presence of someone that has some incredible ability. Imagine that they keep being told they can't. You're not smart enough. Now imagine that's your child or you. We're trying to turn this around, people. Please join us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for spending time with me on Life in HD. I'm Natalia. Tune in every third Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. If today's episode resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear this at natalialifecoach.com. Remember, clarity, growth, and success look different for everyone. Keep embracing who you are, and I'll see you next time.